Welcome, Peter Cannon. I'm really excited to have you on our Slicing Through the Noise podcast. And today we're just going to explore your life from birth to now. Not necessarily birth, but, let's explore your life and mainly your leadership journey. Like, what are the moments in time? And I'll ask you a few questions. You can just volunteer a whole bunch of information. You now live in Australia. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks. Great to be here, by the way, Jennifer, and good to see you again.
Yeah.
Brought up in Glasgow, just outside of Glasgow, small village with a primary school and no secondary school. So busing into school.
Yeah.
Always had this ambition to join the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force at 16 and 2 months, which broke my mum's heart, obviously. 16, out of harm. But so anyway, I joined the Air Force to do communication radar, 4-year apprenticeship to study that, and then finished my apprenticeship, did 1 year on the tools in a deep level maintenance where you strip aircraft down to bare bones.
Yeah.
Then you rebuild the whole aircraft, test it, and then give it back to an operational squadron, and then they go and do their thing with it. From there, I got promoted, which was quite an experience because it was the youngest non-commissioned officer corporal in the Air Force at the time, and got sent to Germany to run a squadron on a flight line full of Harrier jump jets at 21, just after my 21st birthday. So that was a massive experience. And then they amalgamated all these trades, and there was too many people because everyone was in there. And at the same time, the Australian government, New Zealand government, and the Canadian government had advertised in the local British Forces newspaper saying, we want engineers. So I went to their seminars and, of course, look at New Zealand, Canada, and Australia. And, the weather in Australia was the big selling point. Canada, too cold. New Zealand, too cold. I'm like, Australia, pictures, beaches. Plus, I had an aunt lived in Sydney. Always sending postcards, how fantastic it is. No Facebook in those days, right?
Yeah, postcards.
No, exactly. Everything was postcards and letters. So anyway, I applied for Australia under skilled entry visa.
Yeah.
And got that visa granted. Moved to Australia in 96, sold everything. Had one-way ticket down to Sydney. Worked in Sydney for about 6 months, straight off the cuff into Philips, doing some of their engineering and tech support. Then I went to Canberra for 2 years it was government communications, because I converted my trade as well before I moved because of sometimes your defence trades are hard to match an exact trade. So I did an alignment to get some ground communications, ground radar, sort of Australian qualifications as well. Anyway, when I was in Canberra, there was a mob from the UK were trying to headhunt ex-British forces back into the Australian forces, where they offer you same rank. You don't have to do training. You don't have to do any of the basic stuff. You just like, hey, come in and we'll show you what to wear, and off you go. So I joined the Australian Navy in 98. So moved here in 96, 98, joined the Australian Navy. Spent 6 years in the Australian Navy on helicopters, again as an aerospace engineer. And then the last 2 years of that, I was in Tasmania doing recruiting for the Australian Defence Force, for Navy, Army and Air Force. So basically we drove around every college, every school, did presentations, drummed up the kids, then took them for fitness tests and aptitude tests, and then made them sign on the line, put them in a bus and sent them to the airport, right, for 2 years. Good fun.
It's good fun. What a great job. Come here, join the Navy.
Not like the old days where you cosh them, right? You actually do it properly these days. But
yeah.
Then 2004, a friend of mine who was ex-military as well phoned me up from Kuwait and said, hi, we've got this big contract in Kuwait with the US government. We're struggling. We need people in there that understands, aircraft logistics, road logistics, customs. I'm like, I know half of that, so we'll give it a go. So I left the Navy and moved to Kuwait in 2004. I spent 2 years in Kuwait, basically running logistics into Iraq. So stuff would come in by sea into Kuwait, then we'd load planes, we'd load trucks, we'd do fuel, generators, we'd do water, ice, you name it, whatever needed to go in, we moved it in support of coalition. And that's where I met a Greco, actually, because I moved all their generators 2004, 5, 6 into Iraq, Afghanistan as well. Then I moved to Dubai for the same contract but different company. The contracts tend to move, but the people move with the contract to a different company. So I took a role in Dubai looking after the whole region, so Africa, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bahrain, Qatar. Again, moving on military for this time the Australians, the Brits, the Italians, the US, sort of moving all their equipment. Spent 8 years doing that. That's when I met my wife in Dubai. Got married in Dubai. And then we decided to have children, so moved back to Australia again. But then I still needed that little bit of excitement, so I ended up in Papua New Guinea running an airline, the CEO of an airline there for 7 years. That was fun.
Yeah, it got boring. I think I'll just go and
Find somewhere quiet like Papua New Guinea.
like Papua New Guinea. Yeah, great place.
And then COVID hit, so COVID was, lots of hotel quarantines and everything else, and that was sort of, I guess, one of the catalysts to move out of aviation to go into a more domestic sector.
Yeah.
So they moved into power generation, which is the last 2 years.
So tell us a bit about this martial arts thing that you did.
Martial arts, yeah. So when I grew up, we used to go boxing when we were young age, like 10. And then when I lived in England during my apprenticeship, I did Thai boxing, Muay Thai. Then I moved to Germany and I did kickboxing in Holland and Thai boxing and boxing. And I fought in the Lord Wakefields for the Air Force. I was a captain of the team for a little while. So when I moved to Australia, I still did some boxing, did a bit of kickboxing, but I found the kickboxing, Thai boxing was a bit different to Europe.
Yeah.
So I was kind of bored and found this club in Canberra in the PCYC, which was a Filipino stick fighting martial arts club. So I joined that, loved it. When I moved to the South Coast, found another school, and I found a school in Sydney, so I used to drive up and train in all these different schools. And then fought in Australian titles in Tasmania for the first time. We won that. I won it. A bunch of people won their weights, but so I held that title for a number of years, and then we went as a national team to the Philippines in 2000, fought for Australia. In 2002, we went to London, fought for Australia, didn't win, but great experience, and still have a big community in that that circle of martial arts.
Like I know that martial arts is a very disciplined form of sport. How have you translated some of that into how you lead people and what you notice people do and don't? Yeah, let's just start with how you lead people. What have you been able to translate?
I think you're right. It's the discipline, right? And, we always have that sort of, in that martial arts world or sports world, we always say discipline, it's motivation for breakfast. Whereas in business, people say, strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Whereas in the martial arts world, it's discipline, not the motivation to do it, right?
Yeah. I like that. So discipline eats what? Strategy?
Motivation.
Oh, eats motivation.
So in the business world, people will say, culture eats over strategy.
Yes.
Whereas in the martial arts world of sport, it's discipline is over motivation. Because you can say, I'm motivated, I'm going to do this, I'm going to win, I'm going to train tomorrow, right? Everyone can be motivated.
Yes.
But you've got to get up when it's dark, wet, windy, cold. You've been out the night before, you've had a steak and a beer, and you still need to get up and run and do and train. Yeah. So you can be motivated before bed, but you've got to get up and do it, right? And I think that's the...
So it's all about what you do with what you say.
Exactly, right. And I find that's the same now. And even, when I go for a job interview, people say, okay, we've got multiple candidates, why should we give you the role? And usually my answer is sort of based on that is, look, I'm the guy that gets up in the morning without being asked, and I'm the one that will turn up every day and get it done without you phoning or looking for me or trying to find me. Is if I say I'm going to come to work every morning at that time, I'll do it.
Yes.
Discipline is there. And so I think when you lead the team, you've got to maintain that discipline. And it's not about the army style discipline, it's more about... If we're having a meeting at 6 a.m, we're having a meeting at 6 a.m. If we say to a customer, hey, we're going to be there tomorrow at 4 o'clock and finish at midnight, we are. Unless there's something goes wrong, you communicate, reset, agile, keep moving. But yeah, I mean, it's not about talking the game. You've got to be the game, so. Well,
that's a huge distinction. It's like there's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And I love what you just said. You have to actually be and do it.
Yeah, that's
it. Look like you're a participant in this. It's like the eggs and the bacon, that the chicken is involved. The pig is committed.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't always win. It's the same as martial arts. You don't win every every time, but you don't give up because you don't win. So every day you win, lose, and then next day, bang, go again. And I think that's that important mindset.
Well, that's the important thing, like that huge, like it's simple. You say, next day, go again. What do you notice when you're leading people who actually haven't got that internal locus of control and they just don't get that? Go again.
Yeah, that's hard, really hard. Because then, you're trying to motivate people. You're trying to get them to buy in and provide the motivation and lead by example and show the benefits of doing that, what the benefit is for the company and whether it's even just their career progression, whether it's their annual salary review, like whatever it is trying to find something that sparks them as well. Because some people being introvert, extrovert, or left brain, right brain, and you're trying to figure out where can I get that person to go, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then get a spark.
Yeah.
And you don't always get the spark, but
no. I do like what you said though, is that all people are motivated. I had a mentor say that to me once. All people are motivated. They're motivated to do something or they're motivated to do nothing.
Exactly.
Which motivation? Yeah. So I really like the connection that you make of you can be as motivated as all heck.
Yeah.
Are you disciplined?
Yeah, that's a big
So
difference.
what happens to you when you don't see the discipline and when you're having to work so hard to wind them up like monkeys or something? What happens to you when you're doing the winding?
When the legs are not moving. Look, it's easy to sort of get burdened, and I don't like the word stress. I prefer the word pressure, and I think when people have pressure,
I'm with you.
There's pressure.
People need pressure.
Yeah, you need the pressure, and some people convert pressure to stress, and other people convert pressure to, being productive. And I think, the pressure moves when people are not disciplined or not even motivated, then the pressure moves, right? And I guess part of the balance is trying to get that pressure spread evenly across the whole team.
Yeah.
And when you get one or two people not motivated, not disciplined, or maybe it's personal reasons, maybe it's work, then the pressure moves to the team that are motivated. And then you've got that fear factor. If you put too much pressure on another member of the team, at what point does that pressure break them as well?
Yeah.
So you've got to try and balance that pressure. And then sometimes you end up wearing the pressure to pressure relief to the left while someone's no pressure on the right. And, it's like kind of 5D chess sometimes to try and balance that pressure. But being conscious of people's pressure is probably the hard part of the art, I guess, is to see who's got pressure and who hasn't. And you don't want the person who's better at their job taking all that pressure just because they're better at their job. It's also not fair on them. So you've got to try and spread it.
Well, that's the problem. It's like the people who are motivated and disciplined
get loaded.
Get things done.
Yeah.
And you don't need to check whether or not they're going to show up.
Yeah.
And that piece, when you're leading people, is massive.
Yeah.
They don't show up. What am I going to do with them? And then they want to give me their sub-story. I'm like, no.
There's always an excuse.
So if you think of one of your first leadership roles, at 21, you go over there to Germany. Oh, hoopla, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Look, it was exciting until I got there.
I love that. It was exciting until I had to do it.
I remember getting told about it, and I packed up my car, and there was no GPS in those days, so I had a big fold-up map, and I found Germany on the map, and I'm like, okay,
let's go there.
Let's go. Took a week to get there via France and Holland and Belgium, and it was two of us, and my friend said, I'll come for the drive, and then he'll fly back, So we went for a drive, got to Germany, and you do all your paperwork and sign in, then they take you out, and there's your job, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
I love it. Oh, here we go. Let's do this.
This is different. And it was an operational squadron. It was 4 Squadron, the Royal Air Force, which is a Harrier jump jet frontline squadron, always out in conflict areas, in the field, in tents, with nets over forests. And, it's a pretty full-on squadron. And it took me out the first day, showed me this hut in the middle of the runways with all these aircraft and big team of people. Said, that's your team, and there's your flight schedule for the day. And there's what's broken, and that needs fixed by tomorrow, and we'll see you in the morning. I'm like, okay.
I'm 21.
21 gone. Holy smoking. There's a lot of guys who've been there 15 years, 17 years, but they came through there was different levels of entry, and they come through as a mechanic scheme.
Yes.
And you bring in, like, say, 400 mechanics to the Air Force, and then every year you might have, say, I don't know what the numbers are, like 10, 20 spots for them to grow into technicians, then to grow into management. Whereas the scheme I joined bypassed all that. So a lot of them are resentful of young people bypassing, 10, 12 years in the field. And, turn up, they're all covered in oil, they're all cigarettes, heavy drinkers, all bluers, and you're like, oh.
Yes.
And there was some older people the same rank as me that had been that rank for 10, 15 years, maybe in the late 40s, 50s, and I'm 21. So look, it was definitely a challenge, and you learn straight away to, I guess, that humbleness, because, you've got to respect everybody in that machine.
Yes.
And then you've got to try and bring the values that you could bring, which was, I guess, having done the deep level technical stuff. They put you through a lot of that leadership training on those courses of apprenticeships, like it's drummed into you. So you understand a bit more about the structure maybe. You can also understand how to help them grow their careers and give them some development stuff, which they don't get exposed to all the time. But it's definitely a big challenge being on a flight line and then having to travel with these guys in the back of a cargo plane into Turkey or Decimamano or somewhere, and you got to live with them, share a room with them, and they're like, you got to work with them, share a room, eat with them, shower with them as well, and you're sort of part of the team. You've got a role to play, but there's boundaries that you've got to be very conscious of their opinions as well, and their perspective of how they view somebody young coming in a role that they feel with their experience they should be there. But you learn a lot, and there's a lot of guidance there from people who had done a similar thing to me that were now like a chief, and they came through the same structure. So there was a lot of mentoring. Eventually, when you find out who they are and who did which course, help. But it was definitely a bit of a culture shock. But I think it stands you in really good ground, because you live and breathe it 24 hours a day. I think with defence, people don't realise is, you don't really put your bag in the car at 5 o'clock and go home.
It's not there. That kind of life. So what's the toughest piece of feedback that you ever received as a young leader or manager? That changed you, like it really, you remember it?
Yeah, I remember my chief, who was probably in his 50s at the time when I'm 21, and I'm in my 50s now, right? So, but back when you're 21, that seems old, doesn't it? Like, 50, like yes or no, so whatever. I remember him sitting me down in my yearly review, and he says, "You've got to slow down." Like, what do you mean? He said, "You're just trying to get too much done, too fast, too this, too that, and that causes too much chaos with the guys, and I sometimes still reflect not even this day, because I probably haven't changed as much as I should have. I'm probably still moving too fast and learn to slow back a bit. But he said, you've got to sometimes stop and sort of slow down a bit to speed up, and just take a back step and go, okay, assess the situation a bit more, rather than got to fix it now. Let's do it at all cost. And that operational brain is get it done. And then sometimes there's a bit of consequences to making things that fast happen. And
you said something just then that one of my mentors said to me many years ago, and you just said, and I went, I remember that. It's like someone saying to me, Jennifer, you got to slow down to go fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and I can remember, I don't know about you, I remember that, and I go, what? That doesn't even make any sense.
Exactly right.
And yet I've said it to people nowadays, because when you get that hurry-scurry going on, and then what does it actually mean to slow down, to go fast?
Yeah, that's tough. And sometimes I know when back in those days, it would be when we had a bit of a crisis, it's okay. And it sounds crazy, and it sounds a very British thing, but it was almost like, all right, let's get a cup of tea and think about it, was a kind of method of slow down to speed up, right? Because then people stop, they get a cup of tea, they lose the emotion in the situation, they sit down, have a cup of tea and go, right, situation is this, what are we doing about it? I think we should do this, what do you think? Rather than prior to that, you're like, right, you here, I'll get this done, get that done, bang, and then there's no time to think. So the cup of tea thing actually works, even though it sounds very...
I reckon that's a piece of gold, actually, for anyone listening today. When the stuff is hitting the fan and everyone's going way too fast, let's have a cup of tea time. Let's just slow this whole thing down.
It works.
Take a breath have a
It does. It just
cup of
dissolves
tea.
the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
People's getting cups and
Yeah.
sugars and milk, and then
Okay, now we can think.
what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
so it does work.
It's, well, like, I know that seems really simple, but it's a piece of gold for a young leader
Right.
who comes in like you, gung-ho, yeah, I know this, and then go, woo,
It's like, what's happening?
cup of tea time.
Cup of tea, coffee, tea, whatever.
Coffee,
but
we don't care, as long as it's not
Get
alcohol.
in the kitchen and start making something.
And
yeah.
start making tea and coffee and blah, 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 and we sit down, let's have a chat.
And we would do that in the tents in those days. We were out in the field in tents and something would break and
Yeah.
we get the thermoses out and a cup of tea sitting in a bit of grass. Okay, let's think about this. And,
Yeah.
It works.
It works. I mean, that's a real piece of gold. So a mentor who shaped your operating cadence, right? What do you copy from that today as you lead? Like, because there is that's going on constantly.
For sure. And look, there's been many mentors across different disciplines of jobs, but I did sort of work with a couple of guys in Dubai for a long time, and they were sort of, on the verge of retiring at the time. They worked for FedEx, like very senior FedEx guys that came up through the ranks of FedEx, and we did all their cargo flights, all their movements, critical and FedEx. They like things on time for FedEx is real, right? I mean, they refund you if it's not on time, so they want to get it right. But the guys that had been through that sort of, I guess, that pressure of getting everything right, but taking the back step to think all the time and thinking 5 steps ahead about, okay, if you've got something happening in, say, France that's coming into Dubai, which has gone to Iraq, and I'm focused on when it lands in Dubai, getting off a plane onto another plane, etc. They're thinking about the guy with a truck in Iraq with the handheld delivery, even though it's not even in France yet, right? They're that 5 step ahead mentality. So when something goes wrong, say moving from America to France, they're already thinking about, is that driver finishing his shift 15 hours from now? Is he going to still be within hours to deliver? What's the situation like for delivery, rather than instantly trying to solve the problem with the plane being late, leaving Charles de Gaulle? And I think that mentality of what is that 5 steps ahead, right? And it's like talking to our team, we're doing a project at the moment of, say, underground cooling. You got, they put the air down the hole, people are working underground, got to keep it cool. And if you ask people, what's your job? We got to get air into the shaft, keep the people cool. But really the goal is that mine is producing copper, which gets shipped, which then is shareholders, which then keeps the mine open, keeps it alive, keeps people in job on a board level, right? So our job of putting air into the hole, break the place, of putting air into the hole is only really a small component of starting to think 5 steps ahead. If we don't get that air in the hole, what is the consequences all the way down the chain? And those two gents, like I said, they're retired now, but before they retired, that was really...
Like, that's a gift to anyone who wants to follow in the footsteps of logistics and, mechanics and all that kind of stuff. 5 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Stay 5 steps ahead. Think about the guy who's going to be delivering it, who's on a 15-hour shift. Is he going to be able to do that?
It's like you make all these effort and it gets in, the guy goes, I'm finished, I'll do it tomorrow. I mean, but you could have solved that problem in that time that you have, right? Like you could have said, hey, go home, come back in 10 hours. So yeah, that 5 step thing, these guys would always, and sometimes when they started telling me stuff, I'm going, that's not important right now. This is important.
Right now I want to get it out of there.
And then you look at where they've come from to what they've achieved and the way their brain thinks about stuff, and you start to adapt that. And I think that's still a big lesson.
There's another piece of gold for any young leader, right? If you've got a big project or you want to get something done, can you think 5 steps ahead?
Yeah.
Because it's that 5th step that someone just fell off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like when things go wrong, you go 5 steps deep to find out as well. So it's like kind of similar principle. But
yeah. How deep can you go? So, like, as a CEO, like you've been a CEO, you're now head of a huge organisation's operation here in Australia. When you think about the people inside of an organisation, the speed of accountability Let's talk a bit about that. Like, when have you walked past something and paid for it later?
Probably too often.
Nah, you didn't do that.
Like, I think it's easy sometimes to get caught up in that environment where you're focused. You've got a couple of missions going on, stuff you need to get done. And you'll see something and you think, okay, I can stop and deal with it. Or I'll fix this and I'll come back to that, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week. And then sometimes you don't get back to it and then it's out your mind. And because of the pace of work, kind of if you don't deal with stuff there and then, unless you walk around with a notebook and a pen and actually write down, make sure we pick that up later, then it's easy to miss stuff. And then you're right. I mean, as as you say, and everyone says, like, what we walk past is what we tolerate, right? And it's hard. I mean, I do try hard to always stop and call things out and get things done, but it's easy to sometimes look at it and it's not bad. No one's going to die. It's not critical, but it's not what it should be. So, but I think,
those are the excuses that we make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
don't worry about that right now.
I get that model. Yeah, I'm busy. My phone's ringing. Yeah, I'll do that.
I'm so important.
And then you don't want to be you got to be careful not to be the serial pest either that's running around all day saying that's rubbish, that needs done, this needs done. So
So how do you keep decisions fast without adding risk then?
Well, I think, again, thinking, you're always thinking the steps ahead, right, and thinking what's the consequence. And usually with most decisions, right, there's best case, worst case, and there's probably somewhere in the centre which will probably land, right? Yeah. So I think if you think about the worst case that could go wrong based on that decision, what is the worst case if we do that right now, and what's the best case, and then where's it probably going to land, then it's okay to make that decision. If the worst case has got something which is, catastrophic or dangerous, then time to actually stop, go for that cup of tea and go, right, let's do a risk assessment. Yeah. Let's do a safety work method for that. And let's see if that is actually a good decision or not. But if it's something that the worst case is not actually going to be too bad, but the best case is way above and beyond the worst case and you think it's going to land, then it's probably best to move, right?
Like you've built teams, you've started with nothing and go, I'll just build this. What are the 3 critical hires that you make when you're building a new team?
I think, having said built a team from scratch before, the 3 positions was, the first person we put in the team was finance. I'm like, okay.
Very important. What's happening to the money?
We need planes, we need this, we need people, and how much money do we have, what can we spend, all that stuff. The second one was HR, to get me the people. And then the third one was a really strong, well-seasoned operations manager, so that a good seasoned operations guy will take on anything, if it's logistics, people, even interviewing, hiring, loading the plane. An ops guy will get out there and be the jack of all trades.
They'll get their hands dirty.
Yeah. So having those 3 in the team and getting people from an HR perspective that's more recruitment HR rather than people services. Yeah. So they're out there looking for talent. They're phoning people. They're networking with people they know. Find the talent. Finance then, I used to use them as /admin contracts. The finance would do contracts because they had good acumen on contracts. Yeah. So we'd do contract management through finance, HR get the people, ops, people come in, induct them, train them, get them in the field, show them around and keep moving like that as a circle. And
it's interesting to me that you put HR that close to the top, right? Do you know that's not common? So why do you have HR as so important?
Well, I think HR's got a very unbiased opinion. When they're looking at people, they're looking for that fit, the background, where they've came from. Are they flight risks? Are they people that hop from job to job? Do they have that integrity to come into that organisation, right? Whereas the ops guy will be like, can you start tomorrow if you've got a driving licence? You're in, right? Move. Finance will be like, oh, it's a bit expensive. Or, So you've got to get the balance. And I feel, we've had some great HR people over the years when we started you give them the head count, what you want, rough budget, plus or minus, locations, schedules, fill that for us and let them go. And then once a week they come back and tell you where you're at and then your ops guy plugs in. So I always found that HR was more of a partner.
Well, they're a glue too.
Yeah, you kind of
Yeah.
would have been stuffed without
Great
them, to be
plug
honest.
there for HR people who often get underestimated for what they do because they're often seen as a cost centre rather than how they add value.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you get the hire wrong, that becomes a cost.
Yeah. Well, I've read so many articles, as you know, about this because of the integrity and values profile. You get the hire wrong, the minimum it costs you is 3 times their wage.
Yeah, easy. We used to work on a transition of, when I left overseas, was 75,000 US was the cost of replacement at the time you take people's salaries into account to hire, recruit, train, induct, move and everything. And it's expensive.
It's very expensive, and I don't think people even think about it.
So good to get it right the first time.
Get it right the first time. So let's look at that enterprise lens that you bring to running operations. And now you're with Agreco.
Agreco, yeah.
Oh, yes, I got it right.
Spot on.
So what are your non-negotiables around safety and reliability when you're looking at, rather than it just being the poster in the side of the office?
Yeah, look, you've got to live and breathe safety, and we say that, and it's not lip service, You've really got to be... I mean, we have a safety start meeting every morning, every location, 7:30. Every single person has we talk about the weather, we talk about the top 3 things that could hurt you today, how are we going to get around them, what are we doing about it? You encourage that open reporting system, so even if it's just a near miss or a cut, because next time it could be worse for someone else, so we report it. We have safety shares, we have learning topics every day, every single day.
Wow.
And at the end of the month, the leadership team have to present, how many, we do management safety walks as an example, so you have to walk around once a month, everybody, just looking for things that people will miss in their everyday environment because you get so acclimatized to the environment. And then you report that, and again, we share that. And every month, every region has to then share what they've done, how many walks they've done, how many reports we've had, how many incidents, how many car accidents, and the top 3, the near misses, what we're doing about it, what did we share. You have a stop work where everyone's got a card that means they can stop work anytime, even if you don't understand. Like you're not a Sparky, but you're walking past it and that looks a bit dangerous, you can stop work. Then the guy can say, no, it's really safe because it's switched off at the wall, but thanks for stopping anyway, you know what I mean? But you've got that ability to
So they're an empowered group is what you're talking about. Yeah. Don't empower the people, they won't take on the safety conversation.
Yeah. And it's that mindset, right, where people think because you've got a safety person that they're in charge of safety. And it's making people understand you're in charge of safety. You're the one that needs to go home every night to your wife and kids or family or whatever. And it's not the safety guy's job, it's your job, So that culture has to be at a mature level.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, it has to start at the top.
Yeah. And it can't be, like you say, it can't be a poster that says, be safe, right? No one's,
You're right.
no one's going to read that.
I can remember walking through one of the power places in the snowy hydro. They came to talk to me once, and we were looking at all these power stations and what was going on around power, and there was this sign. There was literally a sign: "Don't put your finger in this hole." And I went, "What?" I'm like,
Do
what?
not touch.
And I said to the CEO, I said, "How come that's there?" And he said, "Well, they just don't listen to us, so we put a sign there." And I went, "Is that going to make a difference?" It was extraordinary. Extraordinary. So
it is. And we're in a high-risk environment, so we need to be...
You're in a massively high-risk environment. So tell us about your transition out of aeronautical into heavy machinery. So give us that story. I loved it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting story. So you had the panel interview, and of course, long history in aviation. And one of the managing directors said, how can you transition from aerospace to power generators? I said, look, if you look at the aircraft industry, right, it's a piece of metal with an engine. You have to design it, engineer it, high safety standards, that sort of governed by government level. Then you sell it, and then you maintain it, and you repair it, and you fix it, and you bring it back, and you go through the whole process. And if you look at the power industry, there's a box with an engine in it, and the only thing it's not there is the wings or people inside it, right? It's you still got to build it, design it, put it together. It's got to be reliable. It's got to be safe. You got to be able to sell it. You got to be able to bring it back, maintain it, service it, get spare parts. So really, it's the same industry in my brain. Just there's no wings on a generator. Not yet.
Not yet. We could have a few machines flying around the joint.
Exactly. That's good.
So it's like that transferable skills.
Yeah.
So if you were talking to young people today, how would you tell them to think about themselves as aspiring leaders? Because, I'm an aeronautical engineer. Well, that's where I work. Well, hello. Something else came up.
Well, I think it's taking that bird's eye view. Like I said, if you look at an organisation, right, and especially in that industry of, whether it's, shipping or trucking or whether it's aviation or power generation, is if you look at the core function, it's still... You've still got to design, build, sell, maintain, be reliable, be punctual, be safe, be cost effective. And all of those skills are sort of transferable into every single one of those industries. And the common factor in the whole lot is the people, right? It's that to lead the people and manage a team it doesn't really matter which industry it is, because that's always your biggest challenge, really, is getting the right people.
So, yeah. You don't need to be the smartest guy in the room.
No, preferably not.
So talk a little bit about that, like when you're leading, not having to be the smartest guy in the room. Because if you are, what does that do?
Yeah, it's not smart.
It's not smart.
I mean, like I said, you just talked about multiple disciplines, right? So you'll have people who are electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, refrigeration engineers, logistics specialists, operations specialists, financial officers, analysts. You got continuous improvement people, and they're all SMEs in their own right.
Yeah.
And the knowledge they have and the depth of knowledge in every one of those situations is incredible. And if you're leading a team, you got to be conscious of their expertise, and you got to be able to take the layman's version of all of those expertise and know how to get them to work together to make sure it flows right and get the business right. But you're never going to be as smart as those guys or girls in their field. No way, it's just not possible.
So where have you seen in your career where the leader just can't let go? What does it do?
It kills the team.
It kills the team. Don't kill your team.
No, it kills the team, because if they don't let go, then people start to question, their value. And if they're questioning their value, and then the leaders pushing down. And I've seen it especially overseas, in some of the environments there, in some of those expat environments. You get an expat parachutes in. I'm the boss. You all work for
like
me.
Like a seagull.
Yeah, exactly. Big mess and leaves. And people just get demotivated, and then, you lose talent as well.
Yeah.
Then you try to recruit talent, but then the company's got bad reputation because it's people talk. So yeah, I've seen it probably too many times in other organisations. I've seen it in suppliers as well, where you use a supplier and everyone you talk to in a supplier, the first thing they ask you is, have you got a job?
Yes.
You're like, why? What's happened? And it's, again, you see that culture in organisations where the leadership is like that's the first thing people ask you when you network or socialise is, have you got a job for me? Because they're unhappy. And that's not a good culture, right?
Yeah.
To have that.
So what do you... So if you look at that, right, it's like when you lead a group of experts in their field, growing them into gelling together to create some magic for you, because that's what we're looking for, right? How do we get these people to do whatever they're doing to create some magic? Yeah. So give me a time when you were actually able to do that, like you brought a group of people together and they were different and yet they made magic.
Yeah.
Give me one of your career highlights.
Look, we do it now, to be honest.
Tell me about what's going on.
So we're doing a big project at the moment up in Weipa.
Yeah.
And it's to put, cooling into the ground again for one of the big bores up there. And if I look at the team, we have a weekly call on this. And on there, we've got project coordinators, transport, we've got operations, we've got engineers, we've got document controllers, we've got project managers, we've got the sales team that have sold it. we've got the contract managers, and everyone's on this call. And, people are talking about the dollars part, and people are trying to move trucks, and people are trying to fabricate and make and pull all this together in a tight timeline. It's due in 15 days. And again, if that doesn't work, the union will probably come in and people will leave this job because it's too hard, right? So, it's sort of, you get a good project manager and a good project coordinator, and what you do is you get them to sort of pull the agenda in, make sure it's structured, right, and that everyone's speciality in that structure is to the table, so someone's not left aside because everyone's talking about how my truck needs to be there, right? It's like, okay, where are we at with this? Is the contract signed? Where's the purchase order? Where's this? Where's that? And then the SMEs then get to put their voice on the table, which means everyone sees their value. And at the end of it, there's action items, there's time. So it's having that project management skills really pulls the team. And if you're leading it, it's important then that you have a presence in those teams to make sure you pull the right people in. Because you get familiar with some characters that sometimes maybe doesn't work well with that character. You gotta move people and shape it to get the best out of them. But sometimes it's more.
So it's kind of magical at the moment.
It's more of an art form than a science, right?
It's an art form, not a science. Okay.
But when it works, it's really nice.
Yeah. And when it doesn't work,
it's gritty, it's messy, it's clunky, and things get missed, people get frustrated, people drop off calls, come on. So when it doesn't work, it's and then
they don't have their camera on. Oh, it's not working. Yeah, right. I've seen that.
Too much, right?
You're right. I don't think so.
Or the camera comes on at the wrong moment. And you're like, now you know why the camera's on.
Yeah. And then it comes on and off and you go, hello, everybody. When you look at AI improvement in uptime for working capital and all that kind of thing, how do you think that's going to affect what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I love AI. I'm such a big fan.
What do you love about it?
I think the potential, and again, I'm really pushing it in the business. Like we've got an AI team in Europe that's for the world team. And for example, now we've got this, a Greco chatbot, right?
Yeah.
And rather than sifting through, there's 7,000 people, there's SharePoints everywhere, I can put in there, give me Europe's travel policy as an example, or give me the specs for this equipment, and the chatbot will scour everyone's SharePoint and just pull it out instantly. It's a ring-fence system, right?
Yeah.
It's not into ChatGPT or anything.
Yeah, we've got one of those.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. But when I look at it from a finance level, I look at data, right?
Yeah.
And we've got data of every piece of equipment, where it is, how many hours it's running, right? But then within those data sheets, we know exactly how many spare parts it needs every 250 hours, every 500 hours, right?
Oh, my goodness.
So if AI takes all that data, we should be able to project the exact amount of spare parts we need for the whole year and then phase them in on automatic procurement for supply chain, which means we'll never be overstocked. Our working capital will always be perfect because AI will say you need 600 air filters next month. Whereas if you've done it manually, be like, I used 800 this time last year. But you don't know if you're going to use more or less. Just kind of, you're pulling data from your head. But AI can actually, the software is there already. AI can place the order and receipt the order when it comes in by scanning it in. And then you know exactly what you've got. So your working capital will be on point. Right. So I think AI's got a big piece to play.
So the future of AI, like using it smart. Yeah. And if you actually can't string a sentence together, you can't use AI.
Exactly.
And, like you look at kids today who are not being educated properly, they can't actually write properly.
Well, it's the old saying, garbage
and so they
in,
can't
garbage
actually
out,
use
right?
AI because they can't ask it an intelligent question.
No.
It's actually an issue.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting conversation that I had recently where someone said to me, the problem is kids actually don't know how to string a sentence together, a written sentence together.
That's terrible, isn't it?
So therefore, they can't ask the AI.
They think AI is the answer, but
it's not. You actually have to do the thinking first. So if you were talking to someone coming in, what would you tell them that you absolutely want them to be able to do?
On AI?
Yeah.
Look, I think I look at it and say, okay, what's productive time versus dead time that AI can solve for you, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to be trying to find something, then use AI. The other thing I use it for is if we record a meeting, I get it to summarize the meeting. And then you can check it and, you can tidy it up a little bit. And So if you're using AI, like job description is a classic example, you press the microphone, I'm looking for an electrical technician based in Brisbane, working for a Greco, using their own AI so it knows what they are doing. In a job description, it's going to be on this rate, bang. And then can you put that into the Greco format from our AI? Whereas, if you sit there trying to write a job description and trying to then match it on Word and, line it up and all that stuff, put the font right, what's the point, right? That's dead time where you could be more tactical or strategic. You could be doing stuff much better than just wasting your time. I just loved
what you just said, that AI allows you to go more to strategic, so it can do work for you. Yeah. What was the words that you just used?
Tactical and strategic.
No, you went dead
time.
Yeah.
That's dead time. I mean, you're not achieving anything by sitting typing a job description. That's just dead time you've lost to the business, right?
So don't do dead time.
Exactly. Another thing I used it for last time as an experiment was brilliant. We had an executive meeting offsite, and we were doing some strategy stuff, and it's a big whiteboard. So we drew everything on this whiteboard. Yeah. And then someone said, okay, who's going to take notes and take a picture of the whiteboard and type it up? I said, let's try Copilot. So we took a picture of the whiteboard on Copilot and said, summarize this into org charts and takeaway actions. And it did, just from taking a photograph of a whiteboard. Yeah. Whereas before, you'd have printed that and then you're sitting there typing, Jennifer said this, and Peter said this.
Talk rubbish.
Well, that's, again, it's dead time if you're sitting just typing stuff because nothing's been...
Because it actually makes you more productive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all productivity and, so it's...
So it's about using it smartly, though. Yeah. Because I see people like at universities, they're actually going, no, you can't.
Yeah, plagiarize.
You can't plagiarize like this. You actually have to put it into your words.
Whereas if you put it into your words, not so much on your day to day, but if you were writing, like I've used it, say, for a business paper where you're doing a white paper to maybe get a new depot or expand the business or something, and you type it up roughly, and then you put it in there and say, okay, make this board presentable. And it'll format it and clean it up and take out my Scotticisms, make it more presentable.
You sound really clever.
Exactly.
You sound really smart.
It's just like having another SME in the business, having an AI tool. Yeah. So I think we have to embrace it more. Some people are scared of AI, and you hear it'll replace your job. But I don't think AI will really replace certain jobs. It might in the future. But when you look at day to day, if you can use that to be smarter, more productive, save that dead time. You've got to embrace it. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, well, we use it, and I just think it's made me sound really clever.
But even we're having a Christmas party last Friday, and the girls, I said, just tell AI, here's the dates, here's the flyer, here's the venue, create a little flyer, and AI just does it in a couple of minutes, and you've got a flyer now for the Christmas party rather than trying to build something with Photoshop and search for pictures. It doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. It's a Christmas party.
It doesn't need to be, does it? I mean, it's like, can we use technology in a way that makes our lives better, easier, more productive, more fun, all of that kind of stuff?
Exactly, yeah. I think to resist it's just madness.
Yeah, don't resist it.
Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Find the right use for it and embrace it and enjoy it as well. It's fun.
How about a few really quick questions for you?
Sure.
What's one question that you ask whenever you visit a site?
Well, if I visit a customer site and I'm talking to the customer, the first thing I'll always ask them is, how are we performing? Yeah. And be prepared for sometimes not the best answer, but ask that question honestly, how are we performing for you? Yeah. But if it's a site where it's just staff, and I go there like I was there on a remote site in Mount Isa yesterday, and the question I'd ask them in the morning is, okay, are you getting enough support from the business? Yes. Are we supporting you enough as well? So, and then you get the feedback and go, okay, that's a good point. So it's about what we can do for them, and we're being productive and supportive.
Okay. What's the KPI that you glance at first thing on Monday morning?
There's a few coming, but the first one I look at every Monday, it's called sets and servers. Yeah. And that means all of our equipment, which is in repair. Okay. So if we've got, say, 400 of this particular generator, and every Monday it'll tell me if there's 20 in the shop being repaired, or 30, or 10, and it tells me what it was last week.
Yes.
And it tells me what it is this week. That's the first thing we look at every Monday to say, okay, where are we sitting with? Because if that equipment's not available, then sales can't sell it, which means it's that domino effect, that 5 steps again, right?
5 steps constantly. Tell me about a book that you've read that most improved your operating cadence, like something that you read or a podcast maybe that you listened to, a coach that you had.
But there's 2 books actually. It's supposed to be a quick question, but there's 2 books. The first one is really funky. It's called How to Be a Productivity Ninja.
Oh, that really appealed to you.
But it's got some real stuff in there about how you time manage your emails, your calendars, and buckets and everything, right? So it's really sharp. And the other one that I always found was interesting is called Left of Bang.
Yes.
Which is, making sure it's a military style book that's brought into business where, if you get to the bang, you go into that zone of non-effectiveness. So if you're looking for something to go wrong, try and get ahead of the game before it goes wrong, but don't be head in the sand and acknowledging it's not going to go wrong. So those 2 books are fantastic. Love them.
What's one piece of advice that you'd give to a new GM about to inherit a messy P&L?
Slow down to speed up.
Get
some tea bags.
Get some tea bags. I love it. So get some tea bags. So just to wrap up, tell us a little bit about your current role at Agreco. And, if someone wanted to use you that's listening to this podcast, how would they get hold of what you do? Would they all know who you are?
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
I mean, Agreco, they would know me, but outside of Agreco, probably not. So it's head of operations for the APAC region. And then the operations itself is divided into a couple of different sectors. So you have the base operations, which is that transactional stuff, right, in and out every day, like the storms that come through the other night. Then the guys are out there during the night to do some projects. And then there's the project operations, which is the big sites on the mine sites, which are doing, the big off-grid, solar, batteries, hybrid. And then the other side of transactional, we've got events as well. So we do all the concerts, we do the F1, Live Golf, Sail GP.
Yeah.
So we've got that. Then we have the engineering on top of that as well, which is obviously doing all the design work and safety and compliance for all of these jobs.
Yeah.
And then I've also got the Asian side, which is Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. And they're similar type business, but very data centers, events, shipping. They do a lot of the ships that come in, they provide power. So looking after that spectrum of operations, and then working in an exec team where we have the finance and we have customer service, we have our indigenous engagement, we have safety, we have sales. So we're kind of working as a team, and then there's those branches under us.
Yeah.
So quite diverse.
Very. So, Peter, thank you so much for being on Slicing Through the Noise. I love cup of tea time.
Cup of tea time. Thank you, Jeff. It's been awesome to spend time with you.
It was so cool. And there's a number of pieces of gold that you've just given our listeners that when you're leading, watch out for these things. So thank you for your time.
No, thank you very much for having me on here. It's been great.